With a couple of weeks worth of new information, let's project the new Seattle Seahawks depth chart. Okay, everybody, good morning. Happy Saturday. Hope you guys are doing well. And we've got one preseason game down for the Seahawks, and we've also got a couple weeks of training camp down for the Seahawks, so we know more now. And I don't think this new knowledge is going to make anything drastically different with this team, but there are definitely going to be some changes in perception after all the data of the last couple weeks. So what we're going to do in this video is take a look at the depth chart, or what I imagine the depth chart might look like when the dust settles. I did this maybe a little bit more than a month ago, maybe something like 5 weeks ago. I had a projected depth chart for the Seahawks, complete with the practice squad. So now what we're going to do is update that projection based on new information. And the new information is mostly just one preseason game and 2 weeks of training camp. You'll learn a lot, though, from that. I think that there's going to be a non-trivial amount of changes. And let's go ahead and take a look at what I imagine those changes will be. I'm not going to focus so much on precisely what got updated. It's just going to be more of a thing where we look at it and we decide, okay, I think this is the most likely 53. I think this is the most likely practice squad makeup, etc., etc. All right. Please like this video if you haven't already. Click the thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. Check me out on bleacherreport.com. Videos and I believe live streams are now getting put on the website as well as the app. And give those things a look if you want to. It's a much shorter and more concise version of my content getting posted over there. And yeah, that's what's going on with me. Let's do it. Starting with the quarterback. And the quarterback, I think, is very, very straightforward on this team. Darnold's obviously starting. Drew Lock's the backup. Jalen Milroe is the third stringer. And over the last couple of days, I've seen some real energy around the idea that Drew Lock is not going to make the team. And I've also seen some real energy around Jalen Milroe starting over, or not starting over Drew Lock, but being higher than Drew Lock on the depth chart. One of those two things. I don't see it, and I don't really know where that's coming from. Obviously, Milroe brings some things to the table that Drew Lock does not, but Drew Lock is a veteran. Drew Lock has had not great success in the NFL, but he has had a decent amount of success in the NFL. He's a viable backup quarterback, and I imagine there is an immense amount of desire on the part of this team to keep Milroe off the field in traditional quarterback situations in 2025. I think you'll see him on the field some. I think you'll see him do some trick play stuff, some misdirection stuff. But I think we clearly need a player like Drew Lock on this team to keep him from having to actually be an under center every down quarterback if something happens to Darnold. So I don't know where that's really coming from, but I don't expect anything less than 3 quarterbacks being carried on the active roster. And I don't think anybody's going to be on the practice squad. I usually always like to have a practice squad quarterback, but I don't know who it's going to be. And you don't need a practice squad quarterback as much when you have 3 on the active roster. Running back, I changed a little bit since last time. Walker, Charbonnet, and Martinez are still my 1, 2, 3. I know Martinez didn't have a very good preseason game. That's not enough for me to think that he's not going to make the team, or that he's going to get bumped down the depth chart, but another game or two, and maybe I could be persuaded otherwise on that. I just think there's going to be more of a desire on the part of this coaching staff to get the ball to Martinez a little bit this year, because he was actually drafted under this current offensive coordinator. But the change is that I now have Helani making the team. Had a really good preseason game. He's a guy that I liked going back to last year anyway. So I don't think there's anything wrong with imagining that there's some excitement around him. Now, I don't think he'll be active on game day most of the time, but I do think that there is an opportunity to carry 4 running backs on this team because we are going to be a run first team, especially because we know that a guy like Walker, I mean, any running back that you put out there is going to be expected to miss games right now because that's the nature of the sport. And Walker is probably going to miss more than the typical, honestly. McIntosh obviously gets bumped to injured reserve now, so he's kind of out of the picture. And I have Jacardia Wright making the practice squad. I don't think there should be any issue getting him to the practice squad, and I think that we're seeing some decent things from him that should motivate us to get to keep him around. And then, of course, you've got Oots at fullback, but one thing, and I know this is not interesting because he's obviously going to make it and he's obviously going to be a fullback. The interesting part of this is Brady Russell. As of right now, I think Brady Russell's going to be a practice squatter. This is the guy who I think could make the team over George Holani. This is the guy who I think potentially could be like your backup fullback combined with your backup or third string or even fourth string tight end combined with your emergency long snapper. Maybe that gets him a roster spot. Maybe. I don't know. That one's a little bit tough. But I could see a scenario where we carry 3 running backs and Brady Russell becomes like your utility player. That would be the thing I think to watch for there. Wide receiver, JSN and Cup are 1 and 2. Scantling and Horton are 3 and 4. I still think MVS is going to be number 3 for the moment, but that could change over the next couple weeks very easily. Bobo and White are 5 and 6. And I think those are your 6 receivers, which leaves a couple of pretty interesting guys on the outside looking in. Steven Sims, I know he might make the team just to do return stuff, but I think they're going to try to find a way to not have to keep him and still have competent returners. I think Horton and a couple of guys on kick returns should be enough. I think Broden makes the practice squad, and I think Cody White makes the practice squad. I like Cody White, but that was not a good preseason game. I don't think you can justify keeping him on the team at the moment over White, over the other White, Ricky White, because White brings a lot of really interesting things to special teams. Okay, tight end, we've got AJ Barner, Elijah Arroyo, Eric Saubert. As of right now, I have to believe that Arroyo has been moved ahead of Saubert. I know that initial depth chart from the team said that Saubert was the 2 and Arroyo was the 3, but I think that that can't be the case anymore. And I'm not saying Arroyo played great in the preseason game, but that must have been a placeholder. If that's the case, then something's up. Something's wrong. I don't have a practice squad tight end right now, but Brady Russell's basically a practice squad tight end anyway. I think one way or the other we will have that role fulfilled, just probably by somebody who will also be kind of a fullback. Okay, that's everything except the offensive line. So breaking it down, left tackle, Charles Cross. I've seen good things from Gerald. I think he's now good enough to be considered the backup here. And if he has to play, I don't think it's going to be a disaster the way it was last year. I think Richmond makes the practice squad, or Mason Richmond. I can't imagine him making the roster, but we did spend a draft pick on him, so I think there will be some desire to keep him around. Left guard, we've got Gray Zabel, and I moved Christian Haynes over here. I think it's time to accept that Haynes at right guard is not going to happen, and that his path of least resistance to the roster is backup left guard behind Zabel. And I guess that's okay. It's obviously disappointing that you spend a 3rd round pick on a player who is not seemingly able to earn a starting spot. It is what it is. Maybe he needs to work on center. Maybe he needs to take this season to figure out how to snap the ball effectively, and maybe he can be our center next year. Right now, though, I do think that there is an easy roster spot for him on the left side because we don't really have a backup left guard. And clearly, whatever little you think of Haynes, I think you'd rather have him than Cable Do. I do have Cable Do making the practice squad. That's another guy we did spend a pick on, so I imagine there's some desire to keep him, but can't imagine him making the 53 over Haynes. That would be a very, very bad indictment on Haynes. Center, we got Oluwatimi with Sundell backing him up. I don't think Sundell did himself any favors getting the starting job on Thursday, so I think he's just a backup. Right guard, we got Bradford and we got Lomea. Things kind of slide into place sensibly with Haynes bumping over to the left side. That's the one silver lining here. Now Bradford gets to just kind of get handed the starting job. Lomea, I don't get the sense that they're looking at him as a starter, even though technically he's in competition for it. And then right tackle, I go Abe Lucas, Josh Jones. By the way, you can shuffle Gerald and Jones very easily. Jones could be the backup left tackle. Gerald could be the backup right tackle. It's whatever. And I also have Kite making the practice squad. I think Kite actually played pretty good in the preseason game, and I kind of have a better feeling about him than some of the other deep backup offensive linemen that I've seen so far for this team. Okay, that's the offense. Over to the defense. Nose tackle. I'm going to continue to hope that this team does the right thing at the nose tackle position, even though there are some early indications they might be messing this up. And I'm going to say that Jarek Reed's going to be your nose tackle with Hankins backing him up. I have Quinton Bohanna, I've heard both, making the practice squad. Could be a couple other guys, right? It could be Singleton. It could be, I can't remember what the other guy's name is, but there are a few young, semi-intriguing practice squad caliber nose tackles that could make it here. Defensive tackle, so this would be like your 3-tech. We got Big Cat, we got Murphy, and I'm going to put Morris on the team for the time being. I think his spot is very delicate, but I'll put him here for the time being. And then Riley Mills, injured reserve. I wouldn't be surprised if he got healthy before the end of the season. I don't know if he's going to play this year, mostly because we don't need him, and why not just give him the full season to recover from the pretty serious injury he had last year. And nothing on the practice squad here. Edge rusher, I got Mafe and Nwosu starting, Hall and Lawrence backing them up. And then I've got Tyreek Smith, Jamie Sheriff, Jared Ivey on the practice squad. Now, this is where things get dicey, right? If Nwosu starts the season on the injured reserve list, that frees up a roster spot that maybe you give to Clowney, maybe you give to some other guy that you signed between now and the start of the season that we're not even thinking about. That's where if you made a big trade for a guy like Trey Hendrickson or Micah Parsons, they would go there. But if you do that, then what are you doing with Nwosu when he comes back? Because I don't think he's going to miss the whole season. I think that's where Mike Morris becomes really interesting. For one, maybe Morris is maybe he's like your 4th or 5th edge, because he played a lot outside the tackle in that preseason game. Maybe they're looking at Mike Morris and thinking to themselves, okay, that is our kind of break glass in case of emergency edge player. He did play well, and it's not like being a big edge is unfamiliar to him. It's not like he's only an inside player. I don't know if you're necessarily going to feel great about him doing that, but it is something you can do for a little while. And then Morris just gets to keep his roster spot after Nwosu comes back, because you can see that there's an open spot as is with Nwosu still on the team. My question would be, what happens if Nwosu starts the season on IR? Is Ivy just going to get promoted? Is Tyreek Smith going to get promoted? Or is there an outside acquisition? Things get complicated quickly. Linebacker, I'm going to go Tyrese Knight at will, Ernest Jones at Mike, and then I got Drake Thomas backing up Knight, and then I got Josh Ross backing up Jones. I still have O'Connell on the practice squad. I wasn't really that impressed with him the other day. Not impressed with him overall. Obviously, he's more of a Mike backup than a Will backup, so if you want to be pedantic about it, I'll bump him down. I think that there's something that could be done here, maybe. Maybe McDonald's really likes Ross. And I don't mind Drake Thomas either. Wouldn't surprise me, though. It's still not great behind Knight and Jones, that's for sure. But that's what I got right now. Maybe De'Aaron Jackson over O'Connell. Honestly, that would not surprise me. But for now, I'll go O'Connell. Cornerback, things have been shifted around here a little bit. Woolen and Witherspoon are the starters on the outside, and Emenwari is the starter at nickel. I'm convinced. I'm convinced they're going to do it to start the season. Maybe they change their minds later, but I think that Emenwari is going to be starting at nickel corner for the Seahawks in week 1. I wasn't sure. I think there's going to be immense interest in getting that guy on the field. And I'm not saying it can't go wrong. Maybe by midseason we go back to the old setup, but this allows Witherspoon to be outside full-time. I've got Job and Pritchett as the immediate backups, and I got Shaq Griffin, for the moment, clinging onto his roster spot. Don't be surprised if he doesn't make it, though. There might be an opportunity to kind of go a little bit short at corner because of the Emenwari flexibility. But for the moment, I put him on the 53. I have Isis Waxter on the practice squad, with Demarion Williams also making the practice squad. Demarion Williams, that's a guy who could push Shaq if we want to carry a different cornerback back there. Demarion did not have a very good preseason game, although I don't think it was as bad as some people were saying. So for the moment, I'm going to say not yet, but I don't think we're far away from that. And then safety, we go Julian Love and Kobe Bryant starting, D'Anthony Bell and Ty Okada backing them up. I think Okada's spot is pretty delicate. I could see Jarek Reed getting the spot instead. If Reed is fully recovered from the injury, we might like what he brings as a special teamer. We might think that he has a little more upside. I'll go Okada for now, but this could definitely change in the next couple weeks. AJ Finley, obviously, on the injured reserve list. He's out for the season. And special team specialists, you got Myers, Dixon, Stoll. That is 53 roster spots, 16 practice squad spots. That is my best projection as of this moment. So let me know what you think. Certainly not guaranteed to be right about any of this. I think I'm right about most of this. Most of this is obvious, but there's plenty of room. There's plenty of opportunities for guys to elbow their way in. And there's plenty of room for somebody that we're not currently rostering. Somebody currently not on this team to make it. We have the cap space for it, that's for sure. Okay, that's what I got. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Maybe another video later today, maybe not. I don't know. Not aware of anything big likely to happen today, but yeah, go Hawks. Got another preseason game next week.